I have played the Sicilian opening my whole life. I think it's one of the best openings for black. If I would ask my mother, she would say also that it's one of her favorite openings, but many people say that the Sicilian is only for experienced players and that beginners should not play it. In this video, I'm gonna prove those people wrong because I actually think from the bottom of my heart that the Sicilian is a great opening for beginner and intermediate players. Because to begin with, I think that you're gonna win so many games because your opponents have no idea what to do. But secondly, I think it just really broadens your chess understanding. Like, so many people will in the openings for many years and until they reach like 2000 rating, they'll just play e4, e5, or they'll just play like this one little thing that they've learned and that's it. But the Sicilian is so broad, you learn so much by playing it, and it's such a good opening for black that I really think that it's an opening that more people should recommend for lower rated people as well. So I'm tired of people saying that beginners can't play it. In this video, I'm gonna convince you to play the Sicilian opening because I think it's a great opening. All right, so the Sicilian goes like this. White goes e4 and black replies c5. And now we have the Sicilian on the board. The point of this opening is that the pawn on c5 is now looking towards this d4 square, which is one of the crucial central squares for white. So by going c5, we're stopping white from going d4 and simply taking control of all the center, as here we would take this pawn and now eliminate one of white's central pawns. However, whilst we're doing that, we are not eliminating any of our central pawns. So we're actually defending here on d4 with a pawn that is right next to the center, which means that we get to keep our central pawns. Now, the reason I think that the Sicilian is good for beginners is because you can do the same thing. You know, you can go e5 and now you're defending this d4 square and taking control of one of those central squares. But white will a lot of times play bishop c4 and do a million different things to try to attack this pawn on f7. You've seen it, I've seen it. This is what beginners do in chess. This is not especially good, and this is quite bad, but a lot of beginners in chess will go for these ideas, and many times beginners will actually lose with black against all of these different ideas. So if you're tired of getting tricked with all these different f7 situations, then I think the Sicilian is quite great. And the thing is that so many beginners truly only know one plan, and they will do whatever they can to fulfill that plan in a chess game. So they will know, I want to checkmate on f7. So they're going to do everything in their power to bring out the bishop, to bring out the queen, the knight, everything, and try to checkmate on f7. If you stop that plan, they're not really going to know what to do. And I noticed that because when I was playing the Sicilian yesterday, I played maybe 10-20 games with the Sicilian against people rated under 800-900. Many people, and I mean many, would on move number 2 play bishop c4, and after e6, I could tell that I was stopping their plans. Some of them would even go here queen f3, which is kind of crazy because now you can just bring out the knight and we have these two amazing squares for the knight. This is definitely not a good move. But many people will do this. I even had a person, go queen h5 here. And it's like, wait, but you're not even threatening f7 anymore because our pawn on e6 is blocking the bishop on c4. So it's quite funny. People really get so stuck on one idea that if you play the Sicilian, they're just not going to know what to do against you. And that's what I like, that against bishop c4, we always have e6. This, I think, is amazing. It blocks all of white's ideas towards f7, and it prepares for black to go d5 and get a lot of center. And that's my point number 2. In the Sicilian, you're going to get a lot of very nice kind of open positions in certain lines where we're going d5 and takes, and we can bring the knight out, the bishop can come out, the knight can come out. There's many other openings. French, I'm looking at you. No, but there's many other openings where actually black doesn't really get a lot of open play, where the pieces have a lot of squares to go to. And I think as a beginner, it's nicer and easier to have a lot of places to put your pieces, because otherwise you can feel very cramped, very stuck, like, oh, what can I do? My pieces have no squares. What are the plans? I think you should really learn as a beginner to move around the whole board and to find the best squares for your pieces and play more open positions. I typically don't really think that closed positions necessarily suit most beginners. I think open positions are easier to play. So that is what I also like about the Sicilian, that a lot of times we'll get open positions. So I am right now going to talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen in your chess games. I'm going to talk a little bit about the general moves that you need to remember. And at the end of this video, I will actually tell you the theory, because this wouldn't really be a Sicilian video if I actually didn't tell you the theory of what I'm going to recommend. I will also quickly, briefly showcase a few openings that people that are rated under 1,000 have played against me when I have played the Sicilian, just so you can see what it is that you might expect. Okay, so after e4, we go c5, and now white has a few different options that are good. I mean, white has other options that are not so good, but that's a different story. So the main options here are for white to go knight f3, c3, which is the Alpin, or knight c3, which is the closed Sicilian. Now, let's start talking about another move that they might do that's not one of the greatest moves, but that they can do. It's to go d4. And when a beginner goes d4 against you, it's because they want to take back here. But taking back here with the queen is not so good, because you're moving your queen out very early. And because this is the only piece that white has developed, and black has a lot of pieces to develop, it becomes very easy for black to develop pieces at the same time as they're threatening the queen. So now, after knight c6, black has gained this tempo, they've gotten out their piece, and they're threatening white's queen. White has to move the queen again, which is not something white wants to do. What I have noticed here is that many people will go either queen d3, queen e3, or queen c3. Neither of these moves are really that good from a practical point of view. Here, one of the best moves is simply to go queen d1, I think, because you just put your queen back to safety. But for beginners, this is a very difficult move to do, because you're kind of admitting that this move was a mistake. And that's not really something they want to do, and also it's kind of sad to go back. Queen d3 is also a fine move, but I think just from a practical point of view, it becomes a bit difficult for some people to play with that, because they want to develop this bishop out, and now they can't because the queen is blocking it. Queen c3 is not a good move, because after e6, which I love in a lot of these openings that I'm going to recommend, or variations in the Sicilian, to play d5, after this, many people will forget that the queen is hanging. And I also had this yesterday when I was playing these games. I won this queen twice in this way. So this will happen more times than you think. So here, bishop b4 just wins the queen. So queen e3 I don't like, because it blocks the bishop. But anyways, just for you to know that if they go d4, you take it. And if they bring the queen out, it's not really such a good move. Okay, but let's say that they prepare it. They go knight f3 to later play d4. This is what we call the open Sicilian. Here, I'm going to recommend for you to go e6. And now white might go d4. And the reason I'm recommending for you to go e6 and not knight c6 is because many times after e6 and d4, when you take this pawn, you always take the d4 pawn here in the Sicilian. Always. That's something you can engrave in your brain, always take it. Many people, many beginners will take with the queen once again, which is a mistake. That's why I like bringing out this pawn, to give white the option to commit this mistake. Now we're very happy, because now we're able to bring this knight out. We're threatening the queen, and once again, one of the queen's best options is to go back, but most people will not do that. Now, if the queen goes to c3, once again, we win the queen. This is how I won the queen a couple times. Queen e3, it's fine, but it blocks this bishop. Queen d3 is also fine, but it kind of blocks this bishop. Anyways, against any of these moves, we're going to go for knight f6 and continue our development. And if now white would decide to go e5, this you can know is a mistake, because here we have a very nice tactic, which is queen a5 check, and we win the knight. You see, we're checking the king and we're threatening the knight. But you might say, but Anna, white has this move where they're defending the knight. Well, this is when the key move, the move that happens in the Sicilian so often, bishop b4 comes into play and you win the queen. Really, I was baffled by the amount of times that I was able to play that. Okay, so c5, now knight f3, e6, and d4. Okay, so let's say that instead of taking with the queen, they take with the knight. This is now what is the most common thing to do. Well, now we're going to go knight f6. And here, white has to defend this pawn. They will typically do so by either moving the knight out or the bishop. But if they go for this move because they get all excited and think that you've made a mistake, you have this check and you will win this pawn. And this is just an amazing position for black already now on move number 6. At my level, I've also won the pawn a few times this way. So this can definitely happen. So this also, I think, is a great trick. I love that the Sicilian has all these tricks because people always say, oh, but you have to know so much theory to play the Sicilian with black. But I mean, yes, if white plays full on theory, but if white doesn't know what they're doing either, I think the game is easier for black, which is why I recommend this for beginners. So now, let's say that instead of pushing the pawn, they defend it. Okay, they can defend it with knight c3. This is a great way of defending it. And now, in this position, I'm going to recommend for you to move your knight out. The reason we're going here is because we want to prevent this pawn from pushing. Now, if the pawn pushes, we take it. So, white can do a few different things. Most likely, they will bring out their bishop or bring out this other bishop and then castle. This is the most likely thing to do. They can also move the knight. Now, the thing that you need to know is that basically the only move that you need to be a bit worried about is this one, okay? And if they play this move, either they know a lot of theory, which nobody under 1500 will do with this line, I believe, or they actually don't know what they're doing and they got lucky and played a good move. But this move is really bad if they don't know like the next 5 to 10 moves of theory. So this is what I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. Okay, because most people will not do that. Okay, so let's look at a few different options. Let's say that they take your knight. This is also very possible. We are then going to take with the b pawn and take towards the center. Because we want to play d5 and get a very nice center with our little pawn majority in the center, and therefore we want to take with the b pawn so that we have this pawn supporting d5. Now, if they would move out their bishop, for instance, then the plan is simply to go d5, and if they take, we take back with the c pawn, and now our idea is going to be to develop our pieces, maybe place a bishop on b7 at some point, a bishop on d6, castle. First, we're going to castle before we move this bishop, and that's it. And then we're going to have a very nice center, and we can at some point even try to maybe push e5 and d4 and play with our center. If white decides to go bishop b5, of course, we go bishop d7 and stop the check that way. If they castle, we go bishop d6. Now we have this bishop pointing towards there. We're going to castle. We have the b file open. Not yet, because they can take this pawn, but after something like queen c7 in a certain moment, we might be able to put some pressure on the b2 pawn with a rook on b8. We're attacking b2. If the b2 pawn pushes, then the c file is weak because the pawn is not protecting the knight anymore. We start stacking up on the c file. So those are some of the ideas there. Of course, if white does something like this, we're going to go for the same idea of d5, but this is now a worse move order because they don't really want to go for this check anymore. So this is also not really too much to be afraid of. If they would go for something like bishop f4, here I would recommend for you to just go a6 to prevent any weird bishop b5s or knight b5s. And now, after this, you can go bishop d6, castle, and then play with this amazing center. White doesn't have any center. You're the only one that has the center. It's almost as if you were playing with the white pieces and you just got like a really nice position. So this is great for black. This is amazing. Let's say that here, instead of going bishop e2, they decide to push. This is a very common opening as well. They can actually become pretty crazy if white knows a lot of theory. But basically, just put this knight on d5. If they go knight takes d5, you take with the c pawn, and you're going to be very happy. Now at some point, you're going to go queen c7 and attack this pawn and just kind of play against this pawn. And if instead they decide to go knight e4, you will go queen c7. They can go f4 to defend it. And now I would simply recommend for you to go for this move, queen b6. And the idea of queen b6 is actually that you're kind of preparing to go knight e3 at a certain moment. So let's say that they would go, I don't know, if they would do something random. Well, here, of course, you also have queen b4 check, which would be an amazing move. But yeah, you're kind of preparing to go knight e3. This can get a little bit crazy, but yeah, after c4, here I would actually just recommend for you to go knight e3 and then play a position like this, because this can happen a lot of times, and here you have an amazing position. Okay, so after knight e3, white's only good move is queen d3, but this most people that are beginners will not know, and I can cover this a little bit more later when we look through what the actual theory is. So anyways, that is that. I think those are most of the moves when it comes to takes. After knight c6, of course, white can also just simply go bishop e3 and develop. Then we're going to go bishop b4 and threaten this pawn. And basically the idea of this is that after something like bishop d3, you're going to go d5, takes. You're going to take back either with the pawn or with the knight, whatever suits you. And I mean, taking with the pawn I think is fine just to get the bishop out. h3, h6, castles, castles, and you're going to play a position like this where you can choose to take here if you want to play against white having a couple double pawns. But the point is that this position is really comfortable for black. There isn't any attack for white. And here the person that will win or lose will be the person that will lose will be the person that commits a big blunder. But it will have nothing to do with the opening. That's a very nice and comfortable opening. And, you know, you're going to place a rook on e8. You're going to put this bishop somewhere, probably to d7. And then you're just going to put a rook on c8 and just play this position out. And I don't think you need to know anything more at most levels. And it's the same if they go bishop e2. Once again, we're going to go bishop b4. We're threatening to take this pawn. Some people might even blunder it. If castles, you know, you can go takes, takes, and takes. If they go for some bishop d2, well, then they're blundering the knight. This happened to me yesterday too. If they go f3, you can just go d5 and then castle, and it'll be kind of the same thing as before. There's a saying actually that if you're able to play d5 in the Sicilian, black has equalized, like if black is able to do that. So playing d5 in a lot of these lines with e6 is quite good. So that is basically that. Knight c6, we've talked about takes, we've talked about if they bring their bishops out. If they go knight f3, then we're going to go bishop b4 as well. And now if they would go for something like e5, we can simply go for the move knight e4 and then force white to get a bad pawn structure here. After something like bishop d2, we can just go ahead and force white to get a bad pawn structure. We can even do something like this and go queen c7 and threaten this pawn. So this would be a very nice position. Okay, so a little bit later I will cover what to do if they go knight db5 here. Okay, so that is if they go for the move knight f3. Let's say that they would go for the move knight c3. This is what we call the close Sicilian. Here we're going to go knight c6, and they can now opt for a couple different plans, either to go bishop c4 or g3. If they go bishop c4, we're going to go e6, and that is, yeah, that is almost always when they go bishop c4, we go e6. If they decide to go something like knight f3, then we will simply go for the move bishop e7. And now, after something like castles, we can go d6, knight f6, castles, and try to play d5. That is basically the idea. So something like this, they might get their bishop out somewhere, and then we're going to go d5. And here, black has a very nice position once again. Might go a6, we can go b5, bishop b7. These are all the different ideas here. If instead white decides to play g3, they're typically doing this to play f4. Then we're going to go g6. After f4, we're going to go e6 once again. And now the idea is simply to go knight e7. We're stopping now d4 because we have so many pieces defending that. And after castles, we're going to go castles and then go d5 once again. You see that all the systems and the ideas are very similar, which is what I like about the Sicilian. They're going to get a system that's nice and comfortable, still active, but very similar to remember. Okay. What if they would go, I'm going to show you one more thing. If they go here for the move f4, this is the Grand Prix attack, then typically the idea is to go bishop c4. Now we're going to go e6. Remember, if they do something like f5 here, you're going to take and then go d5. And this is, now there's nothing to worry about. You know, here you can even go c4 and basically bishop g7 and you're doing completely fine. So you don't need to worry about that. So here, if they go knight f3, it's going to be similar to before. We're going to develop this way. The knight is really good here because if the knight was on f6, it would be blocking the bishop. White sometimes has ideas of going f5. We want to have the knight in a place where we're stopping it. d3, castles. And now if white decides to go crazy and try to do something like g4, okay, to begin with, we can go d5. But this is not really anything to worry about. And also, if you do end up getting very worried about it, you can always go f5 to prevent this pawn from pushing any further. So this is also, I think, very nice and comfortable, and the ideas are quite similar to what we were talking about before. Okay. I'm going through these lines a little bit fast because obviously this is just a YouTube video. So yeah, there's a lot of lines, of course, but this is what I think will happen in most of your games if you're playing against someone quite decent. If you're playing as a complete beginner, they will go very wrong very quickly. Okay, what if they would play the Alapin? c3. This is the Alapin. What is the idea of the Alapin? The idea is that white wants to go d4 and go for the same idea as what we were talking about before, but they want to be able to recapture with a pawn and not with a piece. Okay, so here, I'm going to recommend the move knight f6. You're threatening this pawn, and white doesn't have any good way of defending it. If they go d3 to defend it, okay, well now you stop their idea of going d4. That's great. Now you can bring out your other knight, and then you're going to continue developing. You can go e5, d6, bishop e7, castles, bam. So after c3 and knight f6, they will mostly go e5 to threaten your knight. Of course, otherwise you pick up the pawn. Here we're going to go knight d5. We're placing the knight on a central square. If they kick away your knight, this is not a common move, but if they do so, you can simply go knight b4, and now they've kind of destroyed their idea because they cannot go d4 anymore in a good way and take back with the pawn. So that's not a thing to worry about. So here most people will go d4, and like always, you must take on d4. When they go d4, you must take on d4 in the Sicilian. So now taking with the queen would be not anything to worry about at all. You go e6 and knight c6, and now you're going to get so many moves with a tempo. This pawn is going to get weak. It's going to be bad. So they're going to take back with the pawn. And now I'm going to recommend for you to immediately attack the center, because white has a beautiful center and we don't, and we need to change that really quickly. We're going to go d6. We're immediately threatening to get rid of one of the two central pawns. Now most people will go knight f3. Here, we're going to go knight c6, and we're still threatening, you know, to get rid of one of these pawns. We're also threatening in a certain moment to go g6, bishop g7, castles, and try to win this pawn, because this knight is preventing the bishop from going to f4. One thing to remember is that whenever they go knight c3, we're going to be taking on e5, and then we're going to be taking on c3 to get white to get this really bad pawn structure. If they take the queen over here, we're going to take back with the knight to ensure that we can still castle. And now after this, white has a couple of weak pawns. It's an endgame, but it's an endgame where the only goal you have is to keep on attacking these pawns and try to win them. So that is pretty nice. Let's see, what else can they do here? Let's say they would go bishop c4 and threaten your knight. You then go knight b6 and threaten the bishop. And now if the bishop goes somewhere, you're going to take the pawn on e5. White is forced to open up the d file, and then you're able to take over here. And and play something like bishop f5 and just have a nice and active position where you're going to be playing against this pawn. Here, the idea is for you to go g6, bishop g7, and ask white how are they going to defend this pawn. White doesn't really have time to play f4 because if the knight moves, we can take this pawn unless they threaten us. But, you know, if they would go here, we can go takes, takes, and we win a pawn. So what else can they do? Okay, so let's say they would play a little bit more slowly. Now our idea is to go g6. We're going to go bishop g7. And now how do you defend this pawn? If they take, we take with the queen. Because we don't want to take with the pawn because then all our pieces are looking a bit ugly. We're making a pawn completely isolated. We don't like that. The queen is nice and active here. And we're still putting pressure on this d4 pawn. If knight c3, now it's different. Now that we're not planning to take on e5 anymore, we do not take here because then we would give a little supporter to the d4 pawn. We don't do that. We castle and we kind of wait. We're going to be attacking this. If knight b5, no problem. We go back. We're going to go a6 and kick this away. Okay, so these are some brief ideas of what to do against the Alapin. As any player, honestly. These moves are good for any player. Okay, so I'm going to now briefly show you what it is that people have actually played that are beginners with the Sicilian when I've faced them. This is my speedrun account, and here I've played against a lot of people, and yeah, it's my speedrun account, so obviously everyone gets their rating back. Let's take this game. I was playing a 300 player. Went c5, they went knight f3. I went knight c6 here, d4, takes, takes. I went knight f6, threatening that pawn. They played bishop d3 to defend the pawn, but forgot that the knight was hanging. One of the big mistakes that beginners will do actually here, and very common mistake because they get so excited about defending this pawn and they think, oh, how do I do to defend this pawn? And they'll quickly do this move and now bam, they get tunnel vision and you win a piece in move number 5 is black. This will happen more than you think. Let's take this game. I was playing as the 500 who was also playing e4. What I also like about this is that most people actually in under 1000, they play the move 1e4. And so the Sicilian you can play almost every game. c5, knight f3, e6, d4, takes, they took with the queen. This is what I've talked about a lot that they do. And now after knight c6, they went queen c4. I went d5 to threaten the queen. The queen went to f4. I simply got my knight out. Now I got my bishop out. And I kept being able to attack this queen with different pieces. So here, yeah, I don't even know what did I do. I did something strange in this game actually, but this is just a really, I mean, I won the game, but I don't know what I did. But here I could just have gone for something like, you know, castles and then h6 and the queen is very badly placed. So yeah, this is also just not a good thing. And you see that beginners will try to bring out their queen so much because they really want to move it out, but it's not really so great to do so. Let's take this game. I was playing against the 600, c5, knight f3, e6. Now they went bishop c4. I went d5. I was very happy. This check, d4. This was all good stuff that my opponent was doing. But then they basically went bishop e3, and this wasn't so good because after takes, they now have a very weak king. This pawn is very weak as well. I castled, went knight g4, and then I had this move knight takes e3. That was a little bit of an intermediate move. But the point is just that they didn't realize that this pawn, you know, would become so weak, and already now black is way better. Let's take this game against the 647. Now they went g3, I went e6. This and this, queen check. Got my bishop out. They developed, you know, the bishops through both sides. It went h4, and now they went g4. They wanted to attack, but they didn't really know exactly how to attack in a good way. And then they lost, yeah, a lot of things. All right, so this is for the little bit higher rated people here. And intermediates, advanced players, you know, even further. This is for you. And for beginners, if you want to know, of course. It's for everyone. What am I saying? It's for everyone. Okay, so e4, c5, knight f3. We're going to talk about this because I think this is the sharpest line that you need to know if you think your opponent might play it. e6, d4, takes, knight takes. knight f6, we're threatening this pawn. They defended. We go knight c6, and they go for this move, knight b5. What is the idea of this move? They want to go knight d6 check, and then take control of the dark squares and get rid of our good bishop. You need to know that here, this bishop is our good bishop, this bishop is our bad bishop, because all these pawns are in light squares. So we're going to go here d6. Now we're stopping them from going for this knight takes d6, knight d6. And if they do a random move here, we're going to simply go a6. And if they do this, we're going to go b5 and have an amazing position. So the sharp line, or the sharpest line, is for them to go bishop f4 and threaten this pawn. And the reason they go here is because the only good way for us to defend this pawn is by pushing our e-pawn. And now we're giving up this square. So now this square is available for the knight later on. So they're going to go here bishop g5, pinning our knight, and now they're planning to place this knight over here. So now we can go a6, this is what we're going to do, and white has two options, either to retreat with the knight or to take here. If they take here, we must take with the pawn, because if we take with the queen, they have knight c7 fork, check, they win the rook, so we must take with the pawn. Now they have to retreat. I'm going to recommend the move b5, and after knight d5, we're going to go bishop g7 defending this pawn. Very important. Now this whole game is going to be about controlling the d5 square, both for white and for black. So now they might go bishop d3, and I'm going to recommend here for you to go immediately knight e7, threatening this knight. The point is that if they go for moves such as knight takes e7, queen takes, and castles, here we are actually going to go, we're going to start by going castles. And now if they go for something like queen h5, our idea is actually to play against this situation. And here we're going to go for the move d5. And the point is that if they do something crazy, we want to go f5. Or crazy, sorry, something like c3. We want to go f5. Because, and this looks crazy, right? The point is that if they take, we want to go e4, and now this pawn is going to be a little bit loose. We're getting the whole center. This is a very nice position for us. If they would take here, the idea is to go e4 and then f5 and open up for this bishop at the same time as this pawn becomes very weak. After something like c3, we're simply going to play a move like rook b8, and our idea is actually to go b4 at some point. So yeah, I think all of this is very nice. Of course, they can go for something like rook d1, but then we're going to go rook b6. We're stopping this pawn from pushing. We're even going to be able to bring the rook to the other side. We can create an attack against the king, and we have a beautiful and amazing center right now. To a point where the only decent move for white is actually to go d6 and give up this pawn. So those are some ideas there. Of course, also in this position, white can, after castles and castles, you don't have to go queen h5. They can also do something like c3, but then we're going to go f5. And now the point is that after takes, we're going to start by going e4, sorry, and after the bishop moves, we're going to go bishop f5, and then at some point, we're going to try to go d5 later on. So these are a little bit the ideas there, but knight e7, we really want to get rid of this knight. Now, if they don't take, if they go castles, we can then take on d5, and if there is ever a pawn on d5, we are very happy. We would do anything to be able to trade and force white to take back with a pawn and not a piece. Now we've succeeded. Now we're happy. So now our idea is to go f5. We want to go e4. You know, if they do something random and we can go e4, we're threatening both this bishop. Of course, we're pinned, but still. But we're also threatening to win a piece with bishop takes b2. So this is very nice. This is very good for us. Okay. So instead of this, if they would go for something like knight e3, here we can still go f5. And the point is that after e takes f5, we go d5. And then e4. And then we're going to take, just like before. So I love this idea in general. So knight e7, I think, is a very nice move and just a very nice idea in general to have these f5 and d5 ideas. Okay, so let's retreat. Let's say that here in this position, instead of taking here, of course there's more lines, I can't go through every line. This is not a full-on course on the Sicilian, even though I would, I mean, I love the Sicilian, I love to play all this, I've played this so many times. This is not a full-on course, of course. After a6, instead of taking here, if they go knight a3, we're gonna go b5, and we're threatening now to win a piece with b4. Now, white will go either bishop takes f6 or knight d5. Most of the times, they're gonna go knight d5 here. But if they take, we once again need to take with the g-pawn, and now this will become, kind of like before, we're gonna go knight e7, and now after takes and takes, I think this position, transposes to what we were looking at before. So, oh yeah, I also wanted to show, last line I show with this is after takes and takes, if white goes c4 here to prevent this d5 IDS, here we have this beautiful move f5 once again. And the point is that if they take, we go e4 and we win the game because we're threatening the bishop and we're threatening to win a piece over here. So this is very nice. And here, if after c4 and here, instead of taking, if they castle, our idea is to also castle. And now if they go something like queen h5, we're gonna go for the move rook b8. And the point of this is that if we take here, we don't want the bishop to be able to like look at our rook. But yeah, the other point you're gonna see in just a second is that in this position, we have the crazy move d5, which is beautiful. And the idea is that if e takes d5, well, then we have the same thing. We're threatening the bishop and to take here. And if c takes d5, yeah, this is, I think this is so nice. We do the move queen d6 or queen d8. And the point is now that, okay, if they take here, then we can take on d5 with the queen. And if, they don't, let's say that, I don't know what they're gonna do. If they did something like this, we can now go f takes e4, and after this we can go f5. If the queen was on e7, this wouldn't work because they would have d6 threatening the queen and threatening our rook. But now it works. So I think that is a very, very, very nice idea. So here after c takes, we can go here, and if they now go something like f3, we'll just play f4. We'll kind of close this down. And the idea is going to be to go rook b8, and sure, we're a pawn down right now, but this bishop is really bad, this queen is off the game, and this is a completely fine position for us to play right now, where we're going to actually, we're going to be playing, we're probably going to go king h2 at some point, and we can still plan ideas such as f5 in certain moments if we can. So yeah, sometimes we even have the idea of going queen g6, and then, you know, taking like this. Or yeah, even now, wait, let me see if they do something like this. Queen g6 here, yeah, taking like this, and then, okay, we're now very far in. We'll go bishop d7, etc. We're very far in right now. But yeah, this position is completely fine to play for black as well. Okay, so anyways, but just remember these ideas with f5, d5. Okay, so anyways, let's go back. So this is, once again, if they would take on f6. Let's say that instead they go knight d5. Now, they want to take here on f6. So now we need to go bishop e7. And after takes, we're going to take back with the bishop. They're typically going to take back with the bishop and not with the knight, because if they take back with the knight, we can take back with the pawn and then go f5. So now after bishop takes, white either has c3 or c4. If they go c3, our idea is to go bishop g5 because we want to control the d5 square. And the point is that, okay, they can go h4, we will go here. After knight c2 and castles, if they go knight e3 to reinforce this knight, we are going to take on e3 and then go knight e7 and typically bishop e6 or bishop b7 and then fully control the d5 square so that we can forever make sure that if they place a piece there and we take it, they must take back with the pawn and not with the queen. So for instance, here, if we're able to, you know, take here, taking with the knight, here we're going to be very happy because now we're able to play f5 and take control of the center. So that is the idea. Whenever they go knight e3, we do that. And otherwise, we're just going to go bishop e6, knight e7, and threaten this knight. And that's basically the idea you need to remember with c3. If they go c4, we're going to go b4. And after knight's here, we can go a5 to defend. And now, I don't really know. They can go bishop e2. We will castle. They can castle. We're going to go bishop g5 again. Now, if they go knight e3, we don't necessarily want to take it because now we don't have this d5 kind of idea. But here instead, the bad part about them playing c4 is that we can forever place a knight on d4 now because they don't have a pawn on c3. So now this would also be a nice and comfortable position for us. We will probably go bishop b7. We can also, if we want, now we're threatening a little bit to take here because if they take with the knight, we take this pawn. But otherwise, in general, we also have certain ideas of maybe at some point going knight e6, knight c5. We have a lot of places we can go with our pieces, and this is also a very nice position for black. So these are some of the ideas if they would go for this move, knight db5. Of course, there's so much theory in this that we can't go through in just one YouTube video, but this just to give some main ideas. I also briefly want to give some ideas on what to do if knight c6, if they take here and they go for this line. I recommended queen c7, which is good. Now they go f4 to defend, queen b6. And now the main move is for them to go c4. And now you can choose if you want to go knight e3 or bishop b4 check. I have started to come to the conclusion that I think knight e3 is a bit easier to play. But you can look at this. These are some crazy lines. Bishop b4, the king goes to e2. Now you go f5. You're threatening this knight. If the knight moves somewhere random, you can go knight c7, and now you're fine. You're going to castle, and you're completely fine. If they take en passant, you take with the knight. And after takes and takes, this position is completely fine for black. It looks a bit crazy, but after something like a3, you're going to go bishop e7, and then can go c5, and then open up for this bishop. So after knight takes f6, it's a little bit, more scary if they go for something like bishop e3. Now we got to move the queen. Here we can go for something like queen d8. That's completely fine. And if knight d6, we got to take it. And then we can go c5 actually has become a little bit popular. The point is just to sacrifice a pawn to open up this diagonal. But I think bishop b7 is fine. And now sometimes, I mean, this move isn't necessarily so good now because there's bishop a6 check. But yeah, maybe here white will go rook d1, we will go rook c8, and in certain moments we're going to try to play c5 if we can to open up for this bishop. So yeah, here you can also discover so much more. You can put this position into the computer to discover a lot more into this position. But it's a very exciting position. If they would take here, then we're going to be very happy. We're going to take there. And after something like bishop e3, we will go bishop a6 check, bishop c5, and this king is super weak. So you can look at this a lot more, of course, but these are just a lot of the ideas with the Sicilian. And this video was primarily aimed for beginners. But I mean, obviously the Sicilian is amazing in so many ways. And I am recommending you to play e6 here. But of course, here on move number 2, there's a million different things that you can play with black to play the Sicilian. So you can go g6, which is because like a dragon, kind of thing. We can play knight c6, d6, which becomes a knight, or if you can do so many different things. And but the move that I'm recommending you is e6 here. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different. I haven't really done proper opening courses like this on my YouTube channel. If you enjoy my way of teaching and you want to see more in-depth chess teaching from me, then you should get my course. I have a full course on 1d4, which is my favorite opening apart from the Sicilian. I've played this my whole life, the Queen's Gambit. I have a full course that was written by my mother and presented by me on this, where I go very in-depth on everything, pretty much. So check out my course on Chessable. It's also available on chess.com. I'll put the link in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I wish you a lot of good luck. Let me put it up with the Sicilian opening. Let me know if it goes well for you. Thank you so much for watching the video. Bye!